a wedding. It is sold to us as a promise, a day of unblemished, crystalline perfection. But like the most beautiful rose, it often hides thorns, sharp and ready to draw blood. Behind the pristine white lace and the perfectly arranged flowers, there often lies a quiet battlefield. And on this field, two formidable forces are about to engage in a battle of wills. This is not a story about floral arrangements or seating charts. This is a story about a war. The war between a bride who demanded a fantasy and the wedding planner who was hired to orchestrate it. But what happens when the dream itself becomes the monster? Welcome to Bridezilla Nightmares. Today we delve into the anatomy of a showdown, a chilling tale of obsession where the line between perfection and psychosis blurred into nothing. This is the story of the Nightingale Wedding. It began, as these things so often do, with a masquerade of perfect harmony. Eleanor Vance was a wedding planner of impeccable reputation, a woman known for her grace under pressure. Her new client, Madison, was, on the surface, a planner's dream. Charming, decisive, and with a budget that seemed limitless. Her fiancé, a quiet man named David, seemed to exist only as a smiling shadow at her side. Madison's vision was ambitious. She wanted the grand ballroom of a historic hotel transformed into an enchanted forest. Not just inspired by one, she wanted a literal forest. Mature trees, a moss-covered floor, and 1,000 live butterflies to be released during the first kiss. The first sign of a crack in the perfect veneer was subtle, almost dismissible. It concerned the butterflies. Eleanor, ever the professional, explained the logistical impossibilities, the animal welfare concerns, the simple fact that butterflies are not trained performers. She offered stunning, handcrafted alternatives. Madison's email arrived at 3:17 a.m. It read, "Eleanor, I don't pay you for your opinion. I pay you for your execution. Find a way, or I'll find someone who will." The charm had evaporated. What remained was cold, hard demand. The dream was beginning to show its teeth. In any high-stakes project, there is a point of no return. For Eleanor, that point arrived with the nightingale gown. Madison had found a picture of a one-of-a-kind couture gown, woven with thread of gold and adorned with ethically sourced nightingale feathers. The original was in a museum. She didn't want a replica. She wanted the real one.
Madison, the museum has declined. They do not loan out historical artifacts for private events. I have contacted 3 of the world's top designers who can create something.
Then you didn't press them hard enough. You're not understanding me, Eleanor. I will have that dress.
Madison's obsession became a contagion. She began to turn on her own entourage. A bridesmaid was fired via text message for having the wrong shade of auburn hair. The caterer was dismissed after a tasting because Madison claimed the chef looked at her with condescension. David, the fiancé, was nowhere to be found. His calls went to voicemail. His texts went unanswered. Eleanor was isolated, the sole buffer between her client and the reality that was refusing to bend to her will. Remember, we asked what happens when the dream becomes the monster. Now, the monster was fully awake, and it was hungry. This wasn't just a bridezilla anymore. This was something else. Something far more unsettling was unfolding in the gilded cage of that wedding plan. The breaking point came 1 week before the wedding. It was a Tuesday night. Eleanor was working late, trying to salvage a relationship with the florist who was threatening to walk, when Madison appeared at her office door. Unannounced. She was not hysterical. She was not screaming. The truth, Eleanor would later recall, was far more terrifying. She was perfectly, unnervingly calm. She didn't speak of the dress or the butterflies. She spoke of a childhood where nothing was ever good enough. A sister who was always prettier, a father who was never impressed. This wedding, she explained, in a voice as soft as silk and as sharp as a razor, was not a celebration. It was a coronation. Her one single moment to be undeniable, to be perfect. And Eleanor, with her talk of logistics and reality, was the final obstacle. And then came the ultimatum. Madison had compiled a dossier. Every email where Eleanor had suggested a compromise, every note from a vendor expressing concern, she had twisted it all, meticulously crafting a narrative of incompetence and sabotage. She would release it. She would ruin Eleanor's reputation, the business she had spent a decade building, unless the impossible was delivered. The museum dress, the forest, the butterflies, all of it. It was a moment of pure, distilled Stephen King. The monster was not a clown in a sewer, but a bride-to-be in a Chanel coat. It was a checkmate designed to shatter not just a career, but a person. But in every Agatha Christie novel, there is a moment where the detective, faced with a web of lies, simply stops playing the game. Eleanor Vance looked at the woman before her, this ghost of a client, and she made a choice. It was not an invoice for her services. It was an invoice for the termination of the contract. Clause 11B, the Client Responsibility and Well-Being Clause. It stated that if the client's demands became a danger to themselves, the vendors, or the successful and sane execution of the event, the contract could be terminated immediately, with a percentage of the fee retained for services rendered. For the first time in months, Madison was silent, faced not with an argument, but with a consequence. The intricate fantasy she had built crumbled into dust. The showdown was over. The Nightingale wedding never happened. David, the fiancé, terminated the engagement 2 days later. The deposits were lost. The dream was dead. Eleanor Vance took a financial hit, but she saved her company. More importantly, she saved herself. This story is a chilling reminder that the most terrifying monsters are not those that hide in the dark, but those that walk down the aisle, cloaked in ivory and lace. It's the ultimate showdown, where the only thing left to do is walk away from the battlefield. What would you have done? Would you have fought back or given in? Let us know in the comments below. And if you have a story that needs to be told, you know where to find us. For more tales from the edge of the altar, subscribe to Bridezilla Nightmares, because sometimes the vow, "till death do us part," feels more like a threat